everyone, Kelly here, and today I wanted to do the 2 books, 1 stone book tag. And this tag was originally created by Sean the Book Maniac, and I was tagged by Amanda from the Curly Reader. I'm going to link her channel, I'll link both down below, but I'm going to link Amanda down below because she's one of my new favorite channels. She's just got a really calm presence. You might have heard me talk about before BookTubers that I liked that have a calm presence, and the reason for that is that, like, you know, there's a lot of stress in life, and when I want to just calm down, that's what I do, is I watch BookTubers that can just like have a soothing voice and I can just like calm down. Things have been pretty stressful for the last month. If you want a quick life update, I'm gonna tell you a couple things that have been going on, and then if you are not interested, I will put a timestamp right here that'll say where to skip to if you want to get right into the tag. So if you have checked out any of my vlogs in July, you know we just moved, and then as soon as we moved into this house, our air conditioner died, and we, you know, looked into the home warranty. Since it was such an old unit, they were only going to pay like $800. It was ridiculous. And so we had always been planning on looking into geothermal like down the line, like we thought we would have a few years to look into it and save. And so we called some people in, had them look, and we decided to go with geothermal. So now we have giant holes dug into our yard because they are right in the middle of the process, and then they're supposed to be putting in the unit stuff like the big water heaters and everything in our basement that go along with the system next week, so we could have air within 2 weeks. So great, and we will have a renewable energy source, so that's really awesome too. And eventually we want to get solar panels, and when we do that, then we will be completely renewable energy off grid. So that's kind of the goal of point of living out in the middle of nowhere, is that's what we wanted to do, be completely sustainable. The other thing that's been going on lately is I was in a wedding this weekend, and so I was a bridesmaid, you know, so it was a lot all day with the makeup and the hair and doing all the events, and you know there was other events over the weekend and people to see and family and friends and all that. It was a friend of mine from high school, so all of us that are spread all over the country came back and got to hang out, and it's just crazy how this group of us has expanded. So just a lot of things stressing, so I like a calm booktuber. So now on to the tag. This is a pretty short and sweet tag, and it's all about things in twos. That's why it's called 2 books, 1 stone tag. So the first question is the second to last book that you read. And for me, the second to last book I read was Golden Curse by M. Lynn. If you had seen one of my vlogs recently, I just bought this off of Amazon. It's an independently published book, and the series is all about like fairy tale retelling. So this trilogy is about Rapunzel, and then she's got a series about Cinderella, and then a book about Robin Hood, I believe. And I wouldn't say these were fantastic. They were about middle of the road, 3.5 star books. It was entertaining, but not necessarily a new favorite author or anything. And number 2 is the second book from the top of your TBR pile. And I don't have necessarily TBR pile that goes in order, but this is like the books that I'm going to be reading hopefully this month. So if you just go for the second one here, it is Legend by Marie Lu, and I am buddy reading this. I was actually supposed to start yesterday, but I'm gonna start reading it today, probably, and I'm reading this with Tia and all the books. Number 3 is 2 2-star reads. And I've actually had quite a few 2-star reads in July, but since I just did my July wrap-up, I'm going to talk about ones that happened a few months ago so that I don't just repeat what was in my last video. And these are 2 books that I went in thinking I was really going to love them, and then they were 2 stars, so it was kind of a disappointing 2 stars. And the first one is The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden. This is like really loved. It is revolved around Russian folklore. Yeah, and it's very atmospheric. And so a lot of people that love this just really love atmospheric reads. But for me, the plot was just too slow. I couldn't really like cling to anything. And then the other one I would talk about that really disappointed me was I Let You Go by Claire McIntosh. This is a thriller, and so many people rave about this on BookTube, so I was really excited to pick it up because I love thrillers. And I just kind of hated it. Like, almost DNF'd it, but I hate DNFing thrillers because I want to know the solution, but I should have just given up because I really hated the whole, like, second half of this book. I mean, the first half of the book was super boring. This is a thriller about a boy who at the very beginning is killed in a hit and run accident, and then we're following the perspective of a woman, I can't remember her name, and then we're also following the perspective of the detective that is trying to find the hit and run driver. And I thought the whole first half was super boring and nothing was happening. There's a big twist, which I called from page 10. And then the whole second half of the book was just ridiculous. Like after that twist, it was just like ridiculous thing after ridiculous thing, and I just did not like it at all. And it was disappointing. Number 4 is 2 great books by the same author. And for this one, I'm gonna go with Patrick Ness. And I wanted to pick him because I don't feel like I've talked about him a lot, even though I gave both of these books 5 stars. So I definitely want to read basically everything else he has. And these are 2 very different books. So this is a YA, I don't know what you would call it, speculative fiction. Like it doesn't really fit into a specific genre. It's about a boy who at the very beginning drowns, and then the next page he wakes up in this neighborhood and he has no idea how he got there. Is he in the afterlife, or is he dreaming, or who knows? We don't know what it is, so it's very like kind of weird, but I loved it. And then the other one that I read is A Monster Calls, and this one deals basically with grief and a young boy, and I just thought this was a really accurate portrayal of grief, and I loved it. And I loved just like the way he did, like picturing this monster as kind of like being a part of how he shows his grief. So yeah, loved both these books. I actually just bought a Patrick Ness book today, so I am going to continue reading his books. Number 5 is 2 bails, or 2 books you wish you'd bailed on, or 2 books you hated. And I'm going to talk about 2 books I bailed on, so 2 books I DNF'd. And I wanted to do this because I want to talk about different reasons why I DNF a book, because these 2 I DNF for very different reasons. And the first one is called Beyond Trans, Does Gender Matter by Heath Fogg Davis. And this is a nonfiction book, almost kind of like an essay format, where Heath is a transgender man, and he's talking about his whole life, how gender, you know, he was defined by a certain gender, or when people looked at him, thought he was maybe a gender he didn't feel he was, and just kind of his dealing with gender, and kind of him saying, do we really need to have gender be such this big thing? Like, does it have to be on all of our forms? Do we have to specify a gender on a birth certificate? Should sports, unless they're professional, be segregated by gender? And all these kind of things. Bathrooms, a lot of different issues. And I really was interested in the material, but the problem was that the writing was just so dry. I just could not stay focused. It was just boring, and he had such good thoughts and ideas, and I did think the topic was important, and so I really gave it a try, but I couldn't get past like about 1/4 of the way through, just because it was like very repetitive and boring, basically. But I don't think it was bad. So if you're somebody that likes kind of more just informational nonfiction, I'm more of a narrative nonfiction person or a memoir person, so if you're more informational nonfiction person, I would suggest it. It just wasn't for me, but I have no ill feelings towards the book, you know what I mean? And then the other one is one that I just like actively hated, and that's why I DNF'd it. And that was also a nonfiction called 7, an Experimental Mutiny Against Excess by Jen Hatmaker. And this is one of those where I never like say I hate an author, because, you know, it's not personally about the author, but the only problem was that this is kind of a memoir, like it's about her experience trying to give up things for 7 months, and she gives up 7 things in each month and all that stuff, or goes down to only 7 things each month. So like month 1 she only eats 7 foods, and the next month she only wears 7 pieces of clothing, and it's about like getting rid of materialism and all that stuff. And I just like hated so much of what she was saying, and so it was hard to separate the author from the book, because she's telling about her own experiences and her own thoughts and opinions, and I totally disagree with most of what she said. Like, it was just offensive, like some of the things she was saying about adoption, and just in general felt it just wasn't my thing. So those are 2 different ways of DNFing. One, I had no ill feelings towards the book. It was just boring. And the other one, I had active hate for. And so those are 2 that I bailed on. Number 6 is 2 favorite books so far this year. And I had just recently done the, what's it called? The mid-year book freakout tag. So I tried to pick books that I hadn't picked for that. Though I'm not sure if I picked this book already. I don't remember. I thought these are new, but we'll see. I might have repeated myself. One is Confessions by Kanai Minoto, and this is a thriller. It was really inventive. I like the way this thriller was done. It's from 6 different perspectives, so every chapter is a different perspective of a person around one event, and that event is a teacher whose daughter is killed on the school grounds, and so every single chapter comes from a different person on how they approach that story, and I thought it was really interesting. And then I have The Final Empire, the first book in the Mistborn trilogy by Brandon Sanderson. I'm not really a high fantasy person, so I was a little wary going into this, but I loved it. I loved the characters. I loved the magic system. I liked the way he described the world. It felt very easy to like connect with and still kept me interested. Like it wasn't too much info dumpy, but just enough so that I can understand, but still be invested in the plot. And I just really loved it, and I want to continue the series. I actually have number 2 right there on my TBR list. So those are 2 favorites so far this year. Number 7 is 2 new favorite booktubers, and I have Tia from Tia and All the Books, who I was saying I was going to buddy read with. I just started watching her recently, and now I'm like, every time one of her videos posts, I watch it pretty much immediately. Like, I really enjoy her, and I'll link these both down below. And the other one is Charlie from Charlie Brook. I also started watching her just in the last few months, and she's just the nicest person when she responds to videos and comments. She's just so sweet. We were supposed to buddy read a book last month, and I kind of bailed on her because of the stress, and she was so nice about it, and we're gonna do one, I think next month. We're gonna read one together, so she's just like one of the nicest people, so you should check her out. Check them both out. Number 8 is a book you've read twice. And I was trying to think of a book I read exactly twice, because I either like read a book once or I read it like a million times. Like Harry Potter, I have read more than twice. So I was trying to think of one exactly twice, and I would say Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton. I read this when I was a kid, like probably around 9 or something, and then I read it just a few months ago, and I loved it. It was a lot of fun. I think it holds up as even though it was written like back in the 90s, it still holds up today as an interesting read. Number 9 is 2 fabulous quotes from books you've read recently. And I decided to pick 2 quotes that are about books. So those of us that are book lovers, these are about books. And the first one is from the book George by Alex Gino, which is a middle grade contemporary book. And the quote is, "It takes a special person to cry over a book. It shows compassion as well as imagination." The second quote is from Nevernight by Jay Kristoff, and it is, "The books we love, they love us back. And just as we mark our places in the pages, those pages leave their marks on us." Number 10 is tag a number of booktubers. The total must be divisible by 2. And so I could have done 2, 4, 6, whatever, but I just decided to do 2 because I just wanted to be quick about this. And so my first one is Victoria from A Musical Bookworm. And like I said before, that I like calm and soothing booktubers. If you also are looking for that, Victoria has a very calm and soothing voice. And the other one is Summer Dawn, and I really enjoy the way she does some theatrical stuff incorporated in her videos, and she reads a lot of middle grade, which I enjoy, and classics and a wide variety. So check them out. I'll link everybody down below I talked about. If you know of any other booktuber recommendations of people that help you relax, please put them down in the comments. I love to check out new people all the time. Thanks, bye.